My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained. All right, and we are live. Welcome, everybody. Today we have a real special guest. We have Mark Zaskey with Crypto Reality. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to
absolutely. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I figured you could tell us a little bit about some of the research you've been doing and how you got into the subject. Let's talk about that.
It seems like and looking back, it's always been there. I mean, I was having this conversation a couple of days ago with somebody, and as far as I can remember, this stuff was around. I mean, I grew up in Ohio, and my family are all uh, Native American heritage and big in hunting, and that whole thing is shrouded in that whole. I was in the fog this one morning, and you get the stories. You're growing up, and your uncles are telling you these lies, and you're like, "This is like bullshit." You know it. But then you get bigger, and like you're camping with your grandpa or something. And we used to camp in the North Woods. My grandparents were military, and so we used to camp in the summers in Grayling, Michigan. And my brother and I found an enormous hominoid track on the side of a highway on the top of like a hill where the road rose up. And then I was like, that was it for me, man. It was like anytime I saw the subject, I was really into it because I kind of had this inside track that stuff was going on and it was real. But Florida cured me of any doubt. Like the first week I moved to Florida, the cops were shooting at what they described as big ass hairy monsters. And go back to the bus stop, kid. You know what I mean? I mean, this was like happening where we moved. In the first week I was here, this thing was real. The first week I moved here, and the police verified it for me, and gunshots verified it for me, and the rancher verified it for me. Subsequently, when I got busted fishing on his property with my friends, you know what I mean? He was yelling at us, and we had to stop, even though he was yelling at us, and talk to him about this thing, and like ask him about it, and then he calmed down and told us about the monkey man.
Huh.
And that it was real and it attacked his horses and he shot at it and the police came and this thing refused to go away. And the police actually shot it and shot at it and it finally left, I guess was the story. So
Wow.
anyway, this stuff goes back, man. We're talking about 1981. That was a long time ago, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Were you actually doing research back then, or I mean, when you were in Michigan, were you actually doing research, or you just kind of grew up around it?
No, actually, what it was my brother was 6 and I was 9, and we were actually coming back from shining shoes on the military base for extra cash so we could buy a fishing bait and like rent these little paddle canoe things to take out on this lake to catch fish because we were all about fishing and like woodsmanship. You know what I mean? It was like we didn't want to be Boy Scouts. We wanted to be like Green Berets, so we would like run around the woods like little maniacs with our faces painted, trying to do everything like Yeah, we were nuts. But that's like the point to that whole story was the Bigfoot culture,
Yeah,
and the awareness of hominoids in the wild has been with me since back then. But Florida, the very first week I moved here, it wasn't a mystery anymore to me. It was like, a heart, chest pounding reality that, like, if we set foot behind our ranch in the strip of forest, that was actually the same strip of forest 300 yards away from where it attacked another rancher's horses, we could be kidnapped by a giant hairy monkey man. And so it was like BB guns and knives, and we were trying to protect ourselves. And it was like real. That's how my like pre-teen, like my pre-pubescent, that's how it went. So yeah, this thing had an effect on me. For a long time, it went away. and I didn't do anything with it. But I was dragged into it by another aspect of the subject of cryptozoology in 2004,
Okay.
and that actually ended up getting made into a Monster Quest episode, which was interesting. And the guy who screwed around and messed the whole project up actually got what he deserved, probably, because he was after money. And I had Nova Southeastern University going to fully fund an expedition to find what these marine mammals were, and like he wanted money. So everything went sideways. And after that, it was like weird because I had people contacting me in cryptozoological circles with Sasquatch information. And then suddenly people were contacting me here in the state of Florida with reports. And then I had a blog. And it just kind of like snowballed into this thing that sort of, it culminated into field expeditions. And then sightings on the expeditions and encounters with people who were with me, and then my own encounters and sightings, and it's been a wild ride, man. Just kind of following the investigation as it's gone,
Yeah. Sounds
where
like
it's headed now.
right.
We always say the same thing, right? Like keep an open mind because you don't want to. Uh, you don't know what's out there. Like what we found is that very little, and this was when we started, and based on my history and education in the subject and the information base that I got my information on the subject from was supposedly the best sources at the time. What I've come to find out is none of them know anything about what these things are or what they do or how they hide or how they live. They have very little limited information, these experts, especially the ones on TV. And it's saddening, you know what I mean? Because the bottom line is if you're not putting considerable time in the field, you're not even coming close to the data that you need to begin to understand even a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah.
And it really does take a lot of time, and you have to have a group first because otherwise you're hiking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like your average biologist does that shit, you know what I mean? So what it is identifying territories that are viable. And in the state of Florida, we were able to do that using two or three key elements of existence of basically any mammal, land mammal. And that is body temperature regulation and water sources, clean water sources, because they're few and far between down here. If you can put those two elements together in the proper equation, invariably down here you will stumble into these areas where you're going to find tracks, and so that's where our research has led us to those two aspects of these patterns that we began to uncover, and we found out a lot of stuff about these things, a lot of stuff. We've been on the same couple of clans for almost 7 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Um, so when did you do your first expedition?
Uh, Officially, I think probably 2010, about 2010.
And was that in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fishing and hiking
Hmm.
and looking for Bigfoot on my
Uh-huh.
fishing expeditions, casually just glancing around, like seeing if there's one around. My entire life down here, ever since that thing happened with the police. And so because there's always, and here's the thing, right? Like, you get this thing in the back of your mind, right? For me, it was like when I was a kid. So what it was to me was something that was, you know, horrifying is the way I would describe it. Because I mean, if this thing's like going to go after a giant horse, and I was already afraid of horses because I was little when I was that young. I was a very little kid, and I had no size on me at all, and I was like I thought I was like Mike Tyson, but or like Tarzan or some shit. But I was very little and very skinny, and that's the reality of it. And so, like, people would look at me and be like, "This kid thinks he's like, fucking Crocodile Dundee or something. You know what I mean? And I used to run around like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, Bigfoot scared all of us. These things scared everybody. And so, you know, having that as a baseline for all of this, um, like, you know, I expected to see this thing for decades and it didn't. You know what I'm saying? And I was like everywhere. I was everywhere. But and now looking back, I know why. And I also know that on several occasions they were there. Because now I know what it's like when they are. And when they are, there's a very distinct like awareness that they're here kind of shit. You know what I mean? And you know, so my whole thing was I'm having these they're here experiences and they're in broad daylight, man. And we're hearing the branches cracking, the steamroller sound where you know there's a big ass heavy thing moving on its front on its arms, you know what I mean? Moving forward on all, you know, trying that quadrupedal shit. And they do that a lot. And when you start realizing that like how am I looking at these bushes and I'm not seeing this guy? And though the bushes are moving and I see something, but I don't understand what it is. You know what I mean? And like I had to explain that. And so, you know, that's when I started going, all right, man, I know where this thing just went through there. And I'm gonna go right where he did and trace his exact steps and look for evidence. And we found hair samples. We found tracks and we found hair samples to confirm that we weren't out of our minds.
Yeah.
Because what I was seeing was like stuff that you would think, you know, it's almost like this, right? Like, and I don't know if this is a same. This is it the subspecies, the tropical. Is it the tropical species of hominid? Is this their evolutionary adaptations to the southernmost swamps, mangroves, and estuaries of South Florida? The hair is incredible. I'm inclined to think that this is continent wide, right, and possibly worldwide, right? The phenomenon that their hair and their skin and everything that it does, and we've thoroughly covered this in our film. I was seeing something that looked like a primate hominoid cuttlefish, and it freaked me out, you know, because I realized quickly when I realized what I was looking at that it was hominoid and that the light was playing on this thing's skin to a degree that made absolutely no scientific sense to me. Okay. And like I've seen a lot of crazy shit. I've been at sea for a long time. I've caught everything you can catch, and trust me, that you know, everything with a chromatophore has been. I've like had a knife in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so in the end, I've studied things. I've had biologists with me on the boats looking for fish, coming to me as an expert to find it for them. In the end, I've never seen anything like this, and it's because the light, the shafts of light, are being blocked and being diverted and being diffused off of thousands of shades of green and yellow and blue and red and everything and hitting a perfectly tuned, achromatically oily canvas on their skin. And what we're talking about is very light gray skin, almost white. And the lighter the skin, the more dramatic the light effect the diffusion has on it. It's an aberration. It's an aberration of light. Chromatic aberration, achromatic aberration. In the end, I witnessed this firsthand, and I watched this, and I'm looking at it. And I don't know what the hell's going on or what this thing is because you can't tell, you can't see symmetry when the light's doing this. And here's the interesting part. That's also, incidentally, how you can see them because nothing else is colored or textured like them in the forest. So if you're staring at a tree line and there happens to be like a live zebra stripe going on in front of you, there's probably a Sasquatch sitting there, man.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. We found out how to see them now, and I can catch them on film at will if they're in the tree line. I see them all the time through my lenses now. And so we're getting closer now, and the tech's getting better, and the lenses are getting better because the one thing that hasn't gotten better is their indifference to even us, and we've brought them thousands of pounds of apples, and you know been very respectful of their privacy, and non-intrusive into their areas to the degree that, obviously when we first started to conduct the study, it was necessary for us to do probes into certain areas. Once we find tracks, we back off and we initiate the experimentation phases to draw them back into their areas and get them curious about us from our observation points. We determine those based on the highest probability of where they will observe us from our prior research and the data we have in that. So everything is developed off of the data from prior expeditions and either the successes or failures of experimentation. A lot of times, you have to go off that kind of stuff, but for sure, everything is thoroughly torn apart, digested by me and Melanie most times. I bounce most stuff off of her. And she's real good for Mark, come on, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm telling you. And she's like, Mark, come on, man. So I'm like, all right. And it's on the editing room floor. You know what I'm saying? In the end, it's like, it's got to be what it's supposed to be, man. And we don't play with that. That's, and we don't have to, because guess what? We're there and so are they. And this is really happening. So I love that part of it. Like, I just laugh, man. Skeptics and all that stuff. I'm like, I feel, I'm presenting you with the information. I do understand the derivative of those types of perspectives on these subjects, is the way I'll put it. But in the end, if you're not boots on the ground, reserve your opinion, because I'm telling you, there's a lot going on out there you're unaware of.
That's fascinating. So tell me about some of the encounters that you've had during your investigation research. Some of your close encounters. Some of the maybe some new behaviors that you've learned about them, or
sure. Well, here some of the best interactions that we have are trying to overcome the barrier of their indifference, right? Because they are so indifferent to us. And I'm talking about they want nothing to do with you. They will sit there and watch your ass for 4 hours from 20 feet away because you're there, and they don't want to get up and move and let you know they're there. That's how much they don't want you to know. I mean, they are like, but at the same time, we've learned, and this is a crucial aspect of our research, that they cannot resist watching what's going on. And so for 7 years, I've made a spectacle out of myself, to the extent that they will actually come and begin to observe us, at which point we initiate the feeding program, and then that initiates curiosity. But in those attempts to overcome in new situations, in new areas, you run into quite a bit of, like, blooper kind of shit, you know what I mean? And some of the stuff that we've seen through bloopers, they've seen. We know they've seen the bloopers, because the very first jar of peanut butter, which happened to be our DNA trap, was prepped and thrown across this stitch of water that's about 45 feet wide. But it was one of those giant ones, and it almost ripped my arm out of the socket, like tore my rotator cuff, like throwing this thing, right? Because it's like a 3-pound jar.
Yeah.
So it hits a palm tree, and it goes bloosh in the water. And this is my first attempt for the DNA trap on film. And I'm like so pissed, right? Because this is like a buildup, man. This is like, I've been waiting to do this, man. And I know they're here, and I know they're over there, and they're going to do this. We're going to catch them. We're going to get the DNA, this whole excitement. And then it's building up, and all day you get there, and all of a sudden, man, it's like, all right, go for it. Action. And we're shooting the journal, and I go to throw it, and it goes right in the fucking camera. And what do? You know what I mean? You're on film, like goofing it up. And so that's what it is, And it's interesting, because the next morning when we went in there, that jar, they had pulled it out of the water and taken it, I guess, apparently unscrewed the lid and everything, and brought the lid about 100 yards to where we basically observed them from, and put it on the stump that I come in and sit on when we come in there.
Wow.
And we both looked at each other, and we were like, oh my God, right? So they are there. They are watching. They are intelligent, and they are smart enough to say, bring more of this. And I think that's what that was. And we both took it that way. Here's the lid of this thing, man. And it was in the water. There's no way that this is happening.
Yeah.
I wrenched it on. You know what I mean? And I work with my hands for a living. You're not getting it off if you're not a really good sized man. Sorry. You know what I mean? And it wasn't scratched, it wasn't chewed, it was nothing. It was just sitting on. So I was like, okay, man, game on. And that was the beginning. That's how it went. In every single area that we've found occupied, and the way we do that is, we search. And when I talk about search, we search methodically the areas that will hold intake tracks, the juiciest spots of a given, area. You start seeking, you get the topographical, and you start looking for the lowest points, and you're gonna find the Sasquatch habitat. Topographical maps are very valuable in that respect. You're seeking that lowest point. You're always gonna find mud. You want seasonal water in areas that do not hold seasonal water. You want to find seasonal water. You know what I mean? And that's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. Those are the things. That's the way we think. That's the rationale behind, crypto reality. The way we go at it is scientifically, man, and we're using scientific information. Here's the cool part, though. It's all based off areas from eyewitnesses and eyewitness accounts. So all the anecdotal information, we are out there confirming that those people are telling the truth.
Right.
There is an encounter I would like to hear you tell me. You told me in Florida, but I know my father hasn't heard it, and I know a few other people haven't. Where you saw something bigger in the behind what you were. How do I describe this? You saw something bigger behind Sasquatch get up and walk away.
Oh, my thermal encounter. Yeah.
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 I would love to hear that one again.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. We had we had a long period of time where we didn't have any thermals, any kind of thermal technology, and someone contacted me and was like really interested in going in the field with us and wanted to bring some thermals down and see what was going on. I was like, man, let's go for it. Let's do it. So anyway, my buddy Scotty now he's my buddy. He came down and from Maine and brought a couple of thermals and so we were gonna. This ended up being like the craziest week of crypto reality in probably ever actually. But he brought infrared monoculars, military like Generation 3, night vision, and he also brought a couple of thermals. And we had encounters, and we were seeing these things, man, from a long distance off, and got footage of these things from a long distance off. With these thermals, and the one thermal I was using was a FLIR, and the recording wasn't working. I think the jack was bad for something. I think you had to use something to record to while you recorded with this particular model of FLIR, and that was bad. So Scotty was like, "Well, look, just use it to spot, and then we'll record with this other one because this other one was good." It was a really nice scope thermal. And some of those scope thermals, like the one I have now, are really nice, man. And so anyway, this had been building up for a while, anticipation of this thermal stuff in the right area. And see, what you have to understand is the backstory of all of the time since the beginning is hundreds of expeditions in this particular spot. And Josh, you guys went there. You guys went there. So now you know the kind of stuff that goes on in this area. And 7 years of it with me, bro. And I'm telling you, it's like, the life that Melanie and I think about on a daily basis that is our lives is based largely off of what happened in that area hundreds of times. And the realizations that we have and that you're beginning to have after your, 4 or 5 days of expeditions into those particular areas that I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, right.
In the end, it's active and it's been active and it's not going to stop, man. They can't get rid of them. It's a part of their heritage. It's where they, It's where they were raised. You're not going to kick them out of their home. You're not going to burn them out, and they try. They're going to do anything they can. But in the end, I went in there with Scotty and Melanie, and it was pitch black. And I do prefer the moon under, the new moon phase for thermals. And I'll tell you why, because everything is lit up like Christmas trees, dude. I mean, if you even got like the chest of a robin 5 hours after the sun goes down, you know what I'm saying? It's like it just pops. And you got out of the truck. I had a thermal. Scotty had a thermal, and Melanie was shooting with my infrared green screen Canon, and just kind of filming us. We made our way around the corner from the truck, and I looked over to where we know they kind of bed down and set up for the night, and they were there. You could see upright figures moving in the bushes. I mean, it was just like, 1,000 yards off, and we're staring at things that got to be 9 feet tall. There's no getting around it. No in the area. Haven't been there hundreds of times. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the tree line like these things are 9 feet tall. Scotty's like, I can't believe this. I'm like ready to throw up already. You know what I mean? Because you're going in there. Well, you already know they're there. Anyway, we go, and it's like, everybody's just quiet, man, because, they're trying not to hear your teeth rattle. You know what I mean? And you're going in there, and you got thermals, and, it's like panning because it's pitch black. And then you get the blindness from looking through the Oculus. When you pull it away, you got one good eye, and that ain't working, okay? Because I'm telling you, it's pitch black. And so everywhere you look, man, you just know this thing's going to suddenly be there, and it's like going to get you and all this. You know, I mean, this is like, you think you're a rational man and all this. I can assure you, once you've seen them, I mean, if you guys have, then there's no being rational about it, being in their spot. It's ludicrous for you to even be there, is the way you should look at it if you're a rational human being. You've seen it, leave it alone, right? So we already got 3 irrational people hauling ass towards the individuals that are on the thermal, right? And like, I'm like ready to throw up in my mouth already, right? Because I know we come around the corner and I'm not seeing anything, and I'm like, oh God. So like, they know we're here, because otherwise they'd be just milling around like, dummies. But they're not like that. So they know, right? They probably got 6 of them watching that part of the trail, and the whistle train is what I call it. It's like, psst, and you hear it in the distance go for like 1,000 yards. You know what I'm saying? And they're just everywhere. Next thing you know, you hear all this like. And so anyway, we come around the corner, and I got the thermal, and it's like so friggin' hot, and it's quiet and weird. And I'm like, man. And so we walked a little further. We came around. There's some water on the left-hand side of us. We were on a levee, and there were bushes down in the water. We came around this end of some real thick bushes that were in the water, and the bank was about 18 feet from me where I was standing. And there was a heat signature on the ground that did not look like an alligator, but it was like lying on the ground. It would look like a giant, like, blob of heat, man.
Yeah.
And then it kind of sat up on its arm. It pushed itself up, like it did, just like that. And like its face did that, but it was like Fleer orange and the whole thing, man. And like, I was staring at it, and then another one came up over here and was like looking all crazy, and then another one on the thermal came up, and there was 3. So what I took from it was that there was 2 females and a male, and they were on the ground. That's the way I looked at it. Whether that's what it was, I don't know, but that's the way it appeared. And then suddenly, a whole wall of thermal came up, maybe 15 to 20 feet behind them. And it was as high as the bushes. And then as I stepped back, it was higher than the bushes, which were pretty big, man. And it was about 12 to 13 feet long. And it was comprised of what I would say is 4 to 6 individuals. And in the front of when they got up, something huge, bigger than those individuals. It had a different, if it was, it had a different shape. It was way bigger. The head was way bigger. Anyway, they stood up and started taking off towards where we were coming from. And so when I saw that, I was basically trying to get the team out, because when I saw him on the ground, I already was like ready to like. I mean, there's nothing like seeing the Sasquatch, man, and like it was in thermal and it was so close and it was like on fire. You know what I mean? It was like I just like never saw anything like it. You know what I mean? And especially at that distance. And really, it was like, how could it be this simple? You know what I mean? But like we knew it. It was like you knew this shit was gonna happen, and here you are, and like here we are, you know. But you don't. It's like you gotta understand, like in the experimentation crypto reality engages in, you have to understand little games. Little games. You're not gonna see what I saw in 7 years and 500 expeditions. That happened one time. One time. And it's like, you know, I have put in the work to see something like what I saw and what I have seen besides that, which is considerable. But that alone, there's something out there. And I tried to tell, I think I may have even told you, Josh, that there's something out there. I thought they were trying to cut us off. When they ran, when they got up and they were moving, man, I was like, run! Because, dude, it looked like they were going to jump the trail and say, you ain't leaving now. Because that's the way they were moving when they got up. They were trying to go the way we came in. And so for me, as the first of all, you know, I mean, I understand, you know, what's going on. I mean, I put myself, my wife, and a good friend that I, you know, just met into this situation where there's a 99% chance that neither of these people expected anything to happen, let alone what is going on. And I seem to be the only one who understands it at the time, because they're having difficulty because they don't have the kind of thermal I have. And they're not seeing what I'm seeing. And so in this situation, it's like, you know, there's a lot of things that go through your head. And as a documentarian and as, you know, from the research standpoint, what's happened just in that occasion is invaluable. And the data that I got from that was invaluable. I mean, man, it's, you know, it's advanced our research again, you know, considerably. And we learned a lot off that one encounter, but I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Right. So
I don't want to do that, you know?
right. Well, backing up on that story, the four that
I'm
ran,
having a hard
saw-
time hearing you, Dad.
Let me turn it up. Sorry about that. Is that better?
Yes.
Is that better? The four that you saw run away, that you saw them running, do you
No. What I saw was movement that was very fast and very smooth.
Okay.
I don't actually think they were running.
Ah, okay.
I
Gotcha.
think they have 70 to 80 inch strides when they're that big.
Okay.
And I think they were just walking. But when you see it, it's like this, right? Like I try to explain to people that when you see a Sasquatch in action and they're moving like they can, it's not something that you've ever seen before, because the mass is different, and just, you know, all of their dimensions are different, and the muscular, the power, and all that stuff is different. It's the laws that apply to human beings and the laws that apply to the natural world as you know it.
Yeah.
They're different for Sasquatch. Their musculature, their bone density, every single thing that I've witnessed these creatures do over the last 7 years and have read about, and all of this stuff from Native American folklore and everything, these things are moving so fast and they are so strong. And I have seen them jump. And I'm telling you, man, it looks like it ain't real. When you see it, the way it moves through the gravity and through the air and through the environment, it's like it's effortless. but the distances that this thing can cover and the speeds that this thing can attain are largely because it's so big. It seems like it's not moving fast at all, but it just covered 35 feet, knucklehead. You know what I'm saying? And it's like floating. It's like it just floats through the air. And I'm like saying this to myself, like it just, because you see this. I mean, these things are incredible. Incredible. That's the part right there that's hard to. Am I the only one having trouble hearing you?
No, I was muted. My bad.
Oh, there you go.
No, it's funny to hear you say that because you hear so many witnesses that talk about their movement and how fluid their movement is, and how I don't know if unreal is the right word or not, but how almost is animated. Is that a good
Yeah, man, that is pretty good.
description?
Yeah,
You hear a lot of witnesses say that, and
yeah.
um, so out there, do you do research? Um, do you ever have any type? Are they ever aggressive with you, or I'm sure they're used to you coming around. I'm sure they recognize you. I'm assuming they're probably intelligent enough to recognize the same people are coming around to develop somewhat of a relationship with you guys. I would assume. Um,
I think in all of the areas that we've been in, there's one area where I think most of them actually, they don't mind us being there, and they'll hang out, man. They'll break stuff when they want another apple, and we know right where to throw it.
oh, okay.
They'll break a tree, or they'll break a limb, or they'll snap something, and the other ones will beat on stuff at the same time.
So
So
they're trying to get a response from you by throwing them an apple or something.
multiple positions, and Mel and I are tossing them to different ones that are knocking.
Huh.
In other areas, I'm convinced that the ones that we are dealing with are not telling the other ones because we get variations in the responses. We get rocks
Oh,
thrown at us by some of them. Somebody's throwing rocks, um, and there's stuff going on, man, in these places. Like, you know, I'm starting to see them in the footage outside the tree line, closer to our position.
okay.
But the only way I discovered it was the other day when I shot for the first time in 3D. There was one way outside the tree line, closer to where my wife's in, not me,
Okay.
my wife. And I just happened to have the 3D cam, and I went like this and turned, and I caught him behind a pine tree. My wife's usually within 15 feet of that pine tree. So I watch those kind of things because those are the kind of behaviors that uh, present safety issues.
Yeah.
This is happening. Like, regardless of what someone thinks, I don't care, man. Go back to MacGyver or whatever you're watching, bro. This is like, listen, I hate to say it, but this is the way I put it to you. Sorry. Your understanding of reality is limited. Mine isn't at this point, not where this is concerned. This is happening. You are remiss. That's just what it is. Sorry.
Right.
You're wrong.
Right.
You, in this case, are wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way I say it.
Right.
And I can tell you, man, that understanding in this entire, when you look at the behaviors that we've been witnessing, I think that what we're seeing is the human dynamic, man. It's like, what would I do if I had no tools, right? No technology at all. And really, that's the way I'm looking at it. I approached it real simple. I was trying to find out if the people that were walking in the bushes next to us were homeless people, or if this was actually really these creatures.
Yeah.
And those were the two things that I had to prove, because in this situation, that's exactly what was happening. There were people in the bushes walking next to it. So if you take the entire, like from a research standpoint, if you take the entire process and you start just like that, and you go to debunk and you go to, remove stuff, what it could be, and you're left with the unexplainable one, and it continues to happen unexplainably,
Yeah.
you begin to understand how to custom tailor your experiments and then be safe doing it. Because trust me, the behaviors, yeah, no man, they're devious. They're brazen. They're so brazen. They have no respect for like the average human being's observational skill because they will literally be within 15 feet of where tourists are standing there, looking in the direction of the unit, the group, and they're right there. And I'm catching them on film from two different angles
Yeah.
at the same time, confirming. You know what I mean? I got cameras 180 degrees on one side of them, and then 90 degrees over here with another human being shooting at the same time. And we've got them two different angles, a profile and a straight on. And there's people right there. We're documenting this. These are the behaviors we're interested in. What's the next step for these guys?
Right.
The thermal sighting put me off of night research, Josh. When you guys were in Florida and we went on a night hike to go get your stuff, your camera that was out there.
Yeah.
That was like one of the first night hikes I'd done in a while. I do about 2 a year, and they're only when I have to. And the reason that is because we experience such a much more aggressive nature when the sun goes down.
Huh.
They're coming in, man. That's just what it is. And yeah, they're gonna stop probably, but they're gonna be all around you all night, running circles around you, throwing pine cones at you,
Yeah.
rocks at you, knocking shit out of your hand. Like man, they're so fast and they can run so effortlessly on their arms. They can just fall forward, man, and their arms have that perfect length. Just that the addition that humans don't have, the one that we would need to make it happen, that little extra length in the forearm, they got it. And they whip it around too, man. If you've ever seen them, I've seen them run on all fours, man. And I'm telling you, it looks freakishly weird. When you watch it, man, their arms are flying high, man. They're reaching high when they run. It's strange looking. I've seen it happen. So look at the situation that we were in, Josh. I can't stand being out there. Hell no. When I saw the one run off in the spotlight that fell out of the tree, and my son just about jumped into my lap, man, trying to get back away from this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It had a terrified look on its face. It was screaming and it was coming down, and it landed on its side, and just boom, and you could hear the air expel from this thing. And the boots, man, under both of our legs, with a vibration in the sugar sand. The rain had packed that sugar sand. Dude, this thing just fell. But when it got up, it took one last look at us in a 100th flash. And its arms were over its head, and it was screaming at the top of its lungs. It was so loud. It was so sudden. And it was so like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Christopher and I were both just like looking at each other afterwards. And the way he vanished, he ran into a portal. It was like funny because I was like, "He ran into a portal." Christopher goes, "Yeah," and he goes, "He's right there, right?" I go, "I'm not joking, man." You know what I mean? And so he's like, "He's right there. He stopped." And I go, "Yeah, you can see right where the bushes stop." And I go, "You going in?" He's like, "I'm not going in." I was like, "This is my son, right? He was 16."
Okay.
He's like, "I'm not going over there," because he had already seen a Sasquatch that afternoon and reported it. We reported it to the park, the whole thing. So in the end, it was like, and it's funny because, like, listen, a lot of people think that this is like something that, it's, I guess for a lot of people, it is a thing that is like impossible. I get that. But understand that a lot of that has to do with you're not living anywhere near their environment.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is, right? Is it? Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Well, and and if you don't spend a lot of time in the woods anyway, I mean, you're definitely not going to experience it. And it's funny when you're talking about their ability to blend in, and down here, I'm out of Houston area. We have Sam Houston National Forest. And there's a lot of activity in Sam Houston National Forest, but there's also a lot of people that come in the national forest there because it's so close to Houston. You have people come camp. There's a campground, but it's funny because we go out there as a research group and we have activity. We hear them. We'll have, we've had some visuals even during the day, and um, it's funny, all the campers that are around there that just don't have a clue. They have no clue. And with all that happening around, I mean, we've had people in the same campground as us, where we're having activity while we're there in the campground. They don't have a clue what's going on. And they would still laugh at us if we said anything to them. You told them what we were doing. And we're sitting there. It's just, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
We've actually been in that same situation where we were, we found this one place, man. This guy kept calling and calling and calling, and he was like, "Man, I'm telling you, I need you to come up here. You got to come up here. You got to come up here." Eventually, I was like, "All right, man." It took like a year, but we went. I'm like, "This guy's serious. Let's go. Let's do it." So we go over there, and it's in Central Florida, and it's one of those situations. Instantly, it becomes, "Are you hearing this? Like, this is like 40 to 60 yards behind the campsite in some thick stuff. A tree just got pushed down in broad daylight, and it's dead quiet. And there's people like, and you can hear them talking like in another campground, like the sound is carrying. No one does anything. I'm looking around, and no one responded to the tree. The tree that fell, man. And Melanie and I were like, we were like dashing for the cameras.
yeah.
This out. We were shooting. I was shooting behind us, and we caught them all creeping around the campground. We started finding hair there. We found tracks there. Chad, man, found a wad. He found a great spot back in there. Hair everywhere. It turns out the hair is everywhere. So it wouldn't have mattered if you went 20 feet behind a tent or 1,000 yards. That place is loaded with hair samples. When you guys come back down, we're going. We're gonna all come out of there with enough to give ourselves a new Elvis, dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sasquatch hair. I'm telling you, there's a load of it. It's like we were there, and I've been there so many times. It's always been there, and it's just we've just had so much of it. But I'm running low on it, so we need to go get some more.
Yeah.
We'll do it too. Watch, we're gonna do it too. I told Dave, I was like, we got to make a stop, man. It's only gonna take like 2 hours, and we'll be back on the road. So we're gonna stop, get the hair real quick, and then keep driving.
Oh, there you go.
That's what's gonna happen. You can lay bets right now. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna come out of that a rich man.
Well, yeah, I believe you. I don't think I want to. I believe you.
Yep, that same weird hair with all those weird elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I know. We found some at camp too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm getting a new microscope. For the examination. So.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you bringing that to the next expedition?
The hair sample?
No,
Yeah.
the microscope.
Oh, it's possible. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I need to do that examination. I've got 3 different samples that I'm looking at here in the next couple weeks. Once I get that microscope, so we'll be doing comparisons to what we've been finding since 2016 with all the stuff from 168 and this new stuff that people are sending me. Man, they're using our theories on temperature variation and topographical maps to find those temperature variations in those lower lying areas. Looking, using satellite to identify the right treetops. Cypress trees love the water. Those are the areas, man. You got to find those areas in the south, and they're doing it, and they're coming back with photos of tracks, and they're bringing hair samples in, and they're seeing these things and having encounters, and they're doing all this stuff. So, and looking at it, I think this is only going to snowball. The more people that continue with this, and this is not like look, everybody's had these ideas, but it's different when you have a data set like what we have that kind of it backs it up, man. They're in these places. Temperature variation is a valuable research tool, and anyone not using it is selling themselves short, man. Especially if you're in the South. What would be fascinating, Josh? Like Todd, you're in the South. I know this applies. The heat is huge.
Oh yeah,
guys. But how does it apply in the North?
Right.
Is it the opposite?
Well,
How
I know.
does it get
I mean,
admission? You know what I mean?
Right.
I notice. The activity seems to lessen it when it gets cold, and it seems to increase as it gets warmer. That's what
So,
I've noticed up here.
well, it makes sense. Like we're all going to sit here and think, oh, well, they're probably bedding down. So, like
Hmm.
from a researcher standpoint, man, I'm going to find those key areas where the snow melt isn't going to have any effect on me because I'm definitely not going to want to be there when it does start melting. So in the end, I would have already figured that out generations ago because I'm thinking generationally through like that's the way you got to think like generationally. These guys have been there for generations. So
Right.
in those areas where you research in the temperature variation, I'm thinking I would look high ground. You know what I mean? And maybe that doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, but especially towards the later end of winter when the snow starts to melt.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pin them at the top, almost assuredly with the snow melts, creating all kinds of floods and all kinds of shit going on. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so using those theories, then here's the experiments. What are you going to do? We're going to do hikes on these days when the temperature's like this and blah, blah, blah. We're going to record everything. The next thing you know, you've done all of this stuff hundreds of times and you've got data subsets that back each other
Yeah.
up.
That
You've
makes
got
sense.
all of these things. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. And so what we're trying to do is get all of this stuff down, get it all compiled, and then we want to do some kind of a database where everybody can continue adding to it in those ways,
That's a great
where
plan.
you'll enter information from your own data sets and begin to log things. So comparatively, we have a national database that researchers can come on who are serious about this,
Yeah.
who want to add to the information sets that we have on this species.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
somebody else was talking about that too. I don't know
Well,
who.
I know I threw an idea at you in Florida, and I want to try and use it in the next expedition about using REM pods that create their own electromagnetic field. Um,
What is it?
see, REM pods they create their own electromagnetic field, a little bubble EMF field. So anything that walks through it or manipulates it, it sets a sensor off and directs you which direction it's coming from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're talking about stuff that like Josh Gates was using with Destination Truth when they set up the perimeters
Yeah, kind of, yes.
and
Except he was just using lasers, but this is actually creating an EMF field because
okay.
I've heard theories about them following power lines because of the EMF and all that they let off. So maybe they can manipulate it somehow. Maybe we can, you
Oh,
know,
okay, I see. That's a great experiment right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I would love to give that a try.
Oh man, that's awesome. And is there a way to record data too?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, man,
Um,
that's a valuable tool as well, man. Especially with the stuff that we saw going on.
yeah, it was a lot of weird stuff.
Control, man. You know what I mean?
It
Like
was.
Harry was like, recording stuff. I was recording stuff. When I was using the EMF meter, it was like, it was random, chaotic, but
Hmm.
way into the toxic,
Uh,
into the spectrum of what's good for you.
that's
Oh
interesting.
yeah.
That's weird. You get that in Texas?
Yeah, I think it's very similar type stuff down here, and it's pretty much the same terrain. Well, same weather, same temperatures, same everything else, pretty much.
Where are you at? Are you near Sam Houston or something?
Yeah, I'm close to Sam Houston. I'm northeast of Houston, so I'm about. Oh, it takes me about 50 minutes to get to one of our sites where we go. We also get up to the big thicket area, and I'm kind of halfway between both.
You find that most of your activity comes from these, or most of your activity is surrounding or in the general area where these deep bottoms are.
Um, yeah, and well, we see a lot of activity in Sam Houston around. They seem to follow. Of course, there's a lot of water down here. We do have a lot of water, and there's some areas around some of the inlets off the off the river where we go. They seem to real marshy type area. Um, we tend to have a lot of activity around those.
Marsh.
Yeah, and we
Lower
haven't got.
level.
Yeah, we haven't gotten lower level. We haven't gotten. I haven't been out in the big thicket as much to do a comparison between Sam Houston, what I've experienced in Sam Houston and Big Thicket. Although we're going to start getting out there more often. I
So, but
like it.
in those areas you're working, sounds like topographically it is the lowest point, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, yeah,
That's
Marchy.
that's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Man.
yeah.
You know,
Um,
that's good confirmation right there. You know, you guys probably get it in Michigan like that too, huh?
Yeah.
Marsh.
Yep. Marshy areas can be like a big magnet for them.
That's a trip.
I know. I know. Recently, me and Blake actually this weekend followed some tracks into the marsh.
Oh, that's awesome.
Some juvenile looking tracks. They were real human looking. Couldn't I can't definitely say it's a Sasquatch. I couldn't really tell all that well. It definitely wasn't a coyote or a raccoon. I can tell you that much. But you could see the footprints mashed into the marsh, and we followed it a good ways. And the weird thing was, it followed and went right into a game trail that split off, and that's where we lost it.
Oh, wow.
So it looked like it used the game trail to throw, anything off that was trying to follow it.
Right.
It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I noticed that in Florida too, that there's a lot of game trails out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, hey, you see hogs and stuff around, but it's rare to see a hog on those trails. Most of those trails you saw, I don't know if you noticed, but those are bipedally like perfect. Did you see
yeah,
that?
yeah.
They're like
And
it's like tightrope trails that are this wide.
and I know the area we took you into
Human trails, man. They're like human type trails.
that
yeah.
we've discovered there's a lot of big tunnels back there, like tall,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't even know was back there until you go back there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else. The big tunnels in the cabbage palms. When you guys come back, we're gonna do some looking in this one particular spot.
Okay.
And there was a giant saw palmetto head, and he had a den in there. I think it was the one I saw, the big gray guy that jumped the trail.
Really?
Yeah, but there was no doubt, man. It was like you walked up to the edge of this thing, you could hear the flies inside, like all down. Like this thing had like a door. You know what I mean? It was like a doorway, and it was like a huge arch into the saw palmettos, and it like went around corners, and it was like super packed ground. And I was like, oh god, the ground's hard. Like you know what I mean? We're in the marsh, man. I just walked out of the water, and the ground's like compacted, man. I'm like, dude, nobody's got a steamroll out here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, right.
like, come on, guys. Let's start waking up and looking at little signs that add up to something.
So is it
So
like
anyway, the wind switched for a second, and I got a big whiff, and I turned the whole thing around and walked out there. And the reason is, I didn't want to get in that situation where at the time there was a swamp buggy and they were shooting guns off. Man, I heard buckshot and birdshot ricocheting all through Salt Palmetto. Sounded like a cat on a hot tin roof, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, so I'm like, we got to go. So we
Yeah.
got out of there. You know what I mean? And the swamp buggy was what triggered them out of the head that they were in, and they were in there. I'm convinced of it. And then that's when he ended up jumping in front of me. I tried to get away from the swamp buggy and get in my truck and go down a mile. I found this trail, and we just happened to be walking up the trail as this individual jumped across it to get away from us.
So the tunnels you're talking about, are they basically trees that are bent down and they cover up the?
No, they're salt palmetto patches. They're palmetto heads that are
Okay,
half
gotcha.
a mile wide.
I see. Yeah.
500 yards long and 15 to 18 feet high.
Okay.
I'm
Wow.
talking about palmettos that look prehistoric. And
Interesting.
those largest palmetto heads in the state of Florida, anywhere you go, are going to be where the king lives. He's going to be up in those giant patches of palmetto. You can rest assured. If you're seeing a patch of palmetto that looks like a Sasquatch could live in it, you're probably is.
There probably is, huh?
Yes, sir. And I can tell you in this area where we're going to go, Josh, we're going to go right into things. As soon as we find it, we're going straight in there. I'm going to have
I
guys
look
on the
forward to
back.
that.
I'm going to have guys on the backside. We're going to identify it one day. I'm going to have a strategy meeting, dude, up in the CO in the command center. And then we're going to surround that bitch from all sides, and we're going to move in on it. And if
Cameras
he's in there, he's going to be like, he's going to squirt out in front of the camera. And normally that's what they do if they don't try to stand their ground. They try to
We'll be recording from every angle. That sounds good. I like that.
including the sky with thermal.
Yep.
So in the end, it's like he's going to get filmed.
Yeah, I know. Carrie's talking about bringing 2 drones this time, so we're gonna have the sky covered for sure.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Hey, we got a cool investigation coming up, man. Here in a couple weeks, we're getting ready to go to North Florida, Carrie and I, and do an investigation.
Oh, okay.
For a new show that we're putting out. We're putting out a show. It's called Investigation Impossible.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
We are literally taking calls from people who have nuisance issues with cryptids on their properties, and we're going to go diagnose the issue to see if there's anything to it, and if there is, try to see what we can let the people know about what's going on their property.
Well, that'll be awesome.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to it.
Exciting.
So the first episode we're going to shoot in a couple of weeks, and it should be out here in a couple of months.
Great. Can't wait to see
Awesome.
it. Yeah, we're excited about that. We got a great location.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't wait to go. I love doing the travel.
I'm jealous.
I love doing the travel investigations because
Yeah,
you don't know what's happening, and you're going to go off the data that someone else is going to give you because that's all you got.
yeah,
You got topographical, you got anecdotal, and you got to put it all together right there, right then, and then you get what you get off the merits of your investigation. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I really like that aspect of it because
Right.
we've been batting like really high so far in our batting average. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah. Do you get calls do you have a lot of habituation areas down along the Everglades where you have residential homes on the edge of the Everglades and so forth?
No, I've never had any calls like that at all. I've had one. I used to take calls for an organization down here for a while, and I got one call this one time from a guy in Boca, and he caught the damn thing on film, and I mean it was good footage.
Huh.
And I actually was looking at the footage, and I'm thinking, wow, what am I staring at here? Because from the side, I didn't understand what I was looking at. And I didn't understand the variations that exist within this group of creatures.
Okay. The way they look?
I mean, yeah, like if you have a family group of them, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but we've identified several very different looking individuals in the same area, which you would assume would be the same group. Obviously, it's a safe assumption if they're hanging out.
Yeah.
Right. So, why do they look so different? Right. And sometimes they look very much the same. A little one would look exactly like one of the big ones. Okay, what's going on here?
Now, when you say look different, do you mean by size? Do you mean by arm length?
Their facial structure,
color, facial. Okay.
The bone structure and symmetry of their faces can vary.
Gotcha.
Like all of that can vary so drastically.
Yeah.
That it's damn near impossible to identify the individuals if you've never seen them before.
Yeah, I know. I
Just
noticed
like
the prints. The prints are a lot slimmer than what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, some of them. That's the weird part. Some of them aren't. Like I found some that have to have tree trunks like above them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this dude's ankle. I mean, you're looking at it like, okay. Somebody just told me about a track that was, I think it was Carrie the other night. I found them like this here in Florida. It was 9 inches wide. It was only 14 inches long, but it was 9 inches wide. It was 6 inches wide at the heel. Now, I have found individuals' tracks like that.
Yeah.
It looks like you're staring at, I don't know. It just looks like this.
Yeah. Okay.
You're like, but there's toes.
Yeah.
You're like, what is it that's, above this? I'm looking at this now and I'm trying to picture this, and it looks like the Incredible Hulk's ankles. You know how they're just like, they just go like that kind of, they're huge. They're a part of the foot almost. Like, how are you going to explain that in another way? That's like what it is, right? Because the other ones exist too, Josh, like the ones you're saying. How do you explain that, right? The variations are ridiculous.
Right.
We're talking about genetics. We're talking about a genetic code that is special. Could it be like what Ketchum is saying about Homo sapiens cognatus being a hybrid, but a part of a hierarchy of hominoids? You know what I mean? She says admittedly on the phone to me, there's a hierarchy in the genome, which means there are pure bloods, and they will look different. What do they look like? Well, if the pure bloods, because they exist in that DNA, obviously the pure bloods have the proper chromosomes to continue interbreeding with hominoids. So humans could be a part of that. Obviously, they're a part of the samples that Melvin Ketchum started to study. And she said that Homo sapiens cognatus, right? We still have the one, we're not sure what it is, but we know the female contributor was human, right? Modern human,
Right.
based on her findings and what she says her findings show. And seeing this, what does that mean genetically for us? In the phone conversations that I've had with her, they were years ago, obviously, but in the end, we're seeing exactly what she describes. That they are a key. They're a key. They seem to be able to blend with several different species. They're a hybrid. They're a hybrid species, but yes, but they're like a key hybrid species. I think that there's a high probability that if evolution produced these beings, which directly contradicts what Bella Ketchum's findings are coming to, which is interesting, right? I mean, in the end, we're talking about, uh, how did the chromosomes, she's finding non-human primate DNA in these guys, right? So we're looking at non-human primate DNA. Right. How is that possible? There's a chromosomal difference. It's not in nature.
Right.
This is why science can't swallow the Ketchum stuff, because there are those aspects of what goes on. The data she's talking about, right?
Yep.
And we're looking at all this stuff, and it's like we still see crazy variations in facial structure. That points to very strange or elaborate variations in DNA, man. There's no other way about it. And I'm seeing, to confirm for you right now, both human primate and non-human primate characteristics. Jeff Meldrum was holding a track on the very first Travel Channel documentary he ever was on, and he said this track appears to have both non-human and human primate characteristics. The same thing you heard out of my mouth, and I can show you on Crypto Reality or Crypto Reality Patreon. You can see some of them look very human, and they're just really big, and some of them look to be more non-human primate, like chimpanzee or pangea, something like that. What I'm getting at is across the board.
Yeah.
People who are looking into this agree on these aspects of this,
of
the existence of this creature. That there's hybrid aspects going on here. This thing's showing both human and non-human primates. So okay, man, then why aren't we going after the missing link? Because it wasn't attained naturally. That's why.
That's right.
And there's nothing we can do about that, guys.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people too.
Why else would evolutionary archaeologists and evolutionary biologists and evolutionary anthropologists and maybe not anthropologists because they're the ones pushing it, but in the end, all of these evolutionary people are avoiding Sasquatch. You know that makes not a nickel of sense when considered with what eyewitnesses are saying they see.
Right.
The missing link, dude. I was alive in the 1970s, and I saw how they pushed the hunt for the missing link with guys with shovels. Not guys with cameras, guys with shovels. They were looking for it in the ground. But I got news for you. It's breathing in the woods a couple miles from my house right now. The problem is that chromosomal barrier. That's not going to go away. That's not going to go away. So until they become okay with explaining that aspect of
Yeah,
it,
exactly. They're going to have to.
we're not going to be able. So what does it mean? Are they going to come out with aliens before they come out with Bigfoot? I don't know, man. It would be much easier to just say Baalbek is real and advanced civilization was here many, many, many millennia ago. Here's the proof, guys. It's only laser cut and 22 miles from where it came from.
Yeah.
250,000 years ago. Okay? So there are things on the planet that are from then. And that would be a real good understanding because the bottom line is we're already looking at sharks. We're already looking at reptiles. We're already looking at things that are from then. Why can't they just say hominoids still walk the earth's bolts?
Right, right.
It's just that the dumbasses with shovels are trained to say shit's extinct.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I mean, come on, man. Let's get the biologists out there.
Exactly.
Let's get the biologists out there. Bring them. Find them, Josh. That's your job. The next generation, you guys got to break the barrier down. You guys got to break the barrier between field researchers and biologists. And I'm going to be there for it. Watch. I'm going to keep pushing too.
Yeah, I want to be around to see that.
I feel like we're getting there. You know, things are moving. Things are coming out.
We
You
hope.
know, it's getting to a point where you can't hide everything.
That's right.
Well, you know.
Yeah. Well, technology now, it's interesting, man. Check this out. Like, no matter what camera you buy, you will have the exact same difficulties photographing Sasquatch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Technological limitations. Oh, man. The FCC regulates electronic devices shrewdly. And if you are really interested in seeing how, look into a lot of the guidelines for manufacturing. You're going to find that limitations, predisposed rules that govern the manufacturing of electronic devices predispose you to limitations before you even get going. That's why you'll always see electronics versions that are completely different for Europe because they don't have the censorship or the hominoid population that the U.S. has.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on, man, but I've done several different shows on lenses. Why is it that we can't buy lenses that can see clearly that certain spot?
Right.
It's like there's a certain spot that they just don't want us looking at. You can't buy a lens, man, to see in this. It's like it's ridiculous. You have to actually go into expending vast sums of money to be able to get good shots on something, and really, who can afford those?
Yeah.
Organizations that are basically either depend on the FCC for regulation so they can get on television, and they're going to obey their rules. So they know. The bottom line is like I was told point blank by a Bigfoot television production company, Mark, we could make that exact show you're talking about, and you could probably succeed in what you're doing. But there's no way the network will ever buy it from us. And that's what the censorship is truly about and where it is. The networks answer to the FCC. That's a government that for some reason is manned by people that, though they were once like us, somehow, when they leave and go to Washington, they turn into those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't know them. And they do things that are against the truth and against reality and against, like, you know, what all of us know is morally correct and morally, you know, judgmentally correct. I can't explain that. I just know that, you know, as far as like moving things forward, you know, I look at, you know, the drawbacks and all of these things. You know, the deeper you go, you start asking questions. Why are my needs? Why is this happening? So you start looking at every aspect of what's going on. You look at the device. You look at the stickers on the device. What is going on with this thing? Why is it that every time these things are around my game camera, this thing fouls up? And you realize that in the manufacturing process, your game camera has to be allowed to be interfered with. It's a rule. Every company has to abide by it. You cannot harden a publicly saleable item to electromagnetic interference. You can't do it. It's illegal. And
Interesting.
I'm like, what? Why is that? If there's not extra electromagnetic devices somewhere out here interfering with my camera.
Yeah.
What is it? What's going on? So here's another whole side to the Sasquatch equation. You know, what I've uncovered in the 7 years of crypto reality is, I believe, based on the data, that we have solid information that says there's a management program going on in the state of Florida, and that there's a lot to it. Aspects of what we were just talking about, and a lot of the aspects of stuff that we talked about all night.
And I'm sure it goes beyond the state.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. That's interesting. I never heard that aspect from the cameras, but it makes totally sense. That's the first time I've heard that.
You guys do any of the game cameras yet?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know they interfere with the cameras. I do know that, but I never thought about the design of the cameras, specific aspects of that design being left out, so that
It can occur.
that can occur.
Yeah, Rule 15. All you have to do is look up FCC Rule 15, and it says that the manufacturer of any electronic device must be allowed to be interfered with.
Interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. And then it's interesting because at the time, there were devices interfering with our devices, and these devices were in the air.
Yeah,
it was like, whoa, this is taking on a whole new thing. So what we've uncovered is something that is so involved that it's going to take a long time
to break through,
to start unraveling little pieces of it, and probably a lot of effort from a lot of people. 168's happening, and they're helping out a lot, man. And Josh, you guys coming down, you guys help a lot. Todd, are you coming down next time?
Probably not, but I'm going to try to get out there one of these days.
Yeah. Well, when the boys come down, you're more than welcome to join them anytime you want. Come on down and hang out with me and Mel down here, and we'll get out in the field, man.
Man, I'd like that.
Yeah, anytime. When anybody's coming down, you just you let us know.
Okay, we'll do for sure.
Yep,
we'll do for sure.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Good stuff.
We'll enjoy that.
Guys, it's about that time. I got to get.
Yep. All right, man.
All right.
Well, Mark, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Great stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'll be looking forward to getting an opportunity to talk to you again one of these days.
Absolutely. Anytime, man. You guys call me anytime. Anything you need, you let me know.
Okay.
I will definitely.
We'll
Thank you so much, Mark.
Oh, that was the other thing. You guys got to come on Crypto Reality.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you a link, and I want to talk about Texas, and I want to talk about Michigan. So.
Okay, done deal.
Okay?
Awesome.
I'll send you a link to our team as well.
Sounds good, man. Let's keep it,
brother.
All right.
All right. See you soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks.
Hide and seek.